Welcome to the NewTubers podcast, the premier small YouTuber community, helping up-and-coming channels improve through critiques, feedback, and cooperation. We teach you how to start, build, and sustain your YouTube career. Now, without further ado, let's begin the show!
Hey there, NewTubers. My name's Bolt, and I'm one of the staff members here at NewTubers. Today, I'm interviewing YouTube creator SomecallmeJohnny, talking about his history with the platform over his 8-year career on YouTube, the 3 different channels he works on a weekly basis, and what he's learned throughout the journey, and his tips for small creators. Any relevant links are in the description below or the show notes if you're listening on podcast. As always, let us know if you enjoy this interview, and if you'd like to see us do more of these in the future. Alright everybody, let's start the interview. Okay, so we're here with YouTube creator SomecallmeJohnny. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it.
So, SomecallmeJohnny, you have 3 different channels that you work on, all of which are either nearing or have passed 100,000 subscribers. You have your main channel, Super Gaming Brothers, and Brain Scratch Comms. Give us an idea about what each of those really have to them.
Okay. Well, out of all of them, I believe like Brain Scratch Commentaries, it's the one with the lowest amount of subs, but I feel out of all the channels that I run is probably the most intellectual because there's 4 of us there. We're all above 20 years old, so we've seen some stuff. We got some knowledge on a couple of things, and we really like to go out of our way to give our honest to God opinions on this or that, or probably go on 76 tangents in the course of 5 minutes because we actually don't like what's going on screen. Hey, it's prone to happen. But when it comes to something that we all know about, to some regard, I really think it makes for some really good like podcast like atmosphere or just background noise in general, which is why I think it has some pretty good retention. Now, as for the Super Gamer Brothers, I believe that of the 3 channels, I believe that's the one that has the most energy because I record that live with my brother Elliot and my friend Matt. We're all on the same couch, we look at the same screen, and we just rib each other. It's more, to put it in a way, goofy than say Brain Scratch, where that one is about discussion. This one is just about how much of jackasses can we be in front of the TV. And I think people like, especially the younger crowd, adapted that more because they like that energy. Now, my main channel, SomecallmeJohnny, I pretty much primarily focus on video game reviews. That's something I've been doing since 2008, and those take the longest time to make. And I wish I could make a video like 1 every 3 days or something like that, but those are the videos that I put the most effort into because that's script writing, that's note-taking, recording footage, editing, compiling, all that, you name it. And throughout many years, I've seen that people really do like my style of editing or my sense of humor, or in quotes, because I don't see it, honestly. And it's the one that out of all 3 channels, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I weigh one than the other, but it is the one I'm the most proud of, the one I'm proud of the most growth, and the one that I have under my belt that I can say, yeah, I've done that. It's taken me a long time, but I've done that.
Yeah, it's your baby, more or less.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you started SomecallmeJohnny 8 years ago, and that's a whole different world as far as YouTube goes. And that was part of the reason I wanted to bring you on for this interview in the first place, was to give some of the NewTubers viewers some perspective on what YouTube was like way back then, before Google was even involved. And you've experienced pretty much every major change that's come through. So give us an idea of how that's been for you.
Oh, well, back then, if you weren't an affiliate with because back then I believe the biggest affiliates was like Machinima. Probably full screen. It was just getting started, or maybe you're one of the lucky few that actually was signed up for like Google AdSense, if you understood how it worked. I didn't.
Nobody still understands how that works.
I don't think anybody did. But around 2008, 2009, that's when YouTube wasn't exactly the premier video site. I mean, it could, but it was also rife with copyright issues and content ID and copyright strikes, which I'm so glad we live in today's world. That's not really a problem. He lied through his teeth. But that was around the time where everyone was using different mediums like Daily Motion or Blip. I remember Blip. I dabbled in Blip myself a little bit. But back then, it wasn't so much doing it for, not just because you have the passion for not because you got paid for it, but because you honest to God love doing it. Because around that time, I was really really into like the Angry Video Game Nerd and the Nostalgia Critic. Those are the two major ones. I was unemployed around that time. I was just getting back into school. I was in the University of Philadelphia on my first year, and I had a lot of free time. And I figured, you know what? I really like what these guys do. I want to give a shot at that too. And for a while, I was kind of meandering. For maybe a year or 2 years, I wasn't exactly sure what kind of identity I want. And then after a while, I just said, screw it. I'm just going to write how I feel, write as I do. And that led me to really finding what I call the definitive identity of SomecallmeJohnny, where I am just a laid back guy that's like, it's not crazy, it's not overly rambunctious with this or that. I just sit on my ass, I drink coffee, and I just tell you my honest to God opinion on what I find, good and what I find bad, and I try my best to be impartial to the best of my ability, but sometimes I lose my mind because I honest to God love what I see, or I honest to God don't like what I see. But for a while I was doing it because I just wanted to get a base out there. I wanted to show people that I can be entertained, because I was in the Art Institute getting my bachelor's for media arts and animation. Because at the end of the day, I always wanted to make content that people could enjoy. And back then, it was cartoons. Nowadays, it's just video content in general. If I got time to make a cartoon, I make a cartoon. But those take so long. But my idea was always make something people can enjoy. And if I can make a couple of bucks on the side, then that's good. I can pay my bills and kill two birds at one stone.
Yeah. Now, you even mentioned art a little bit there, which is, again, another one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on for this, because you have your toe in a bunch of different little pools here. You have a live Let's Play channel, a gaming review channel, which also has some, cartoon drawings here and there infrequently now, and you have a post commentary Let's Play channel, which is an older style that really you don't see much anymore.
No. It was weird at the time because I wasn't really involved into the Let's Play. I didn't really know there was even a Let's Play scene in 2008, 2009, because I think they were still just getting their wings at that point. Back then, if you weren't making a review of a product, you were most likely ranting about something, because everybody had something to say back then about everything. And a Let's Play didn't exactly cross my mind. I didn't get the idea of recording a game and just talking as I'm playing with it, and people find that entertaining. Which is kind of the reason why I'm glad that out of all the three channels, that Brain Scratch was one I kind of grew up in, like, first and foremost, besides my review channel, because again, I love that post commentary discussion. You don't have to worry about playing the game and talking at the same time. The game's already there, recorded for you. Now you can just center all your attention on what you want to talk about for that one video. And that's why I really like going back to some of those Brain Scratch commentaries. Well, anything after 2010, because one thing you will learn when you get started with whatever you want to do on YouTube is that if you want to sound good, you got to spend that money to get that decent equipment, to get a decent mic, decent editing software. Otherwise, it's not going to be pretty the first time. But that's how you learn from that. That's why I don't totally regret those days, because that was a learning experience, and one that I'm glad that I went through.
Yeah. Now, on that subject, how often do you go back and kind of watch your old videos for perspective on any of the channels for that matter?
For perspective? Let me see. Well, for the review channel, I go back specifically if I'm revisiting a certain franchise that I gave a look at previously. Say, for example, next year I want to do the Mega Man X series, because I think that's long overdue. So I was planning on going back to my old Mega Man stuff, which I did, I think, in 2013. I haven't watched a lot of those videos since I originally created them, but it's a good idea to get an idea of what I've said, what I didn't say, so that I don't, A, come off as redundant in these new set of videos, or B, maybe I can clarify something that I wasn't exactly clear on previously. Because there's one thing I try to strive for, in my videos is a sense of continuity. If you've been watching my channel since then, the future videos, in my opinion, will be better because I make reference to those older videos. You get little bonuses here and there for sticking with the channel for as long as you do, and I keep that in mind for a lot of things. Also, I also get the idea of maybe it's funny because there are times where I'm writing a script for a video and I'm thinking maybe I should put this in here, maybe like a little snide remark or an observation or a joke, and I'll pass on it for them. It's like, no, I'll save it for later, and I'll forget about it until I rewatch the video. And then I realize, oh wait, that's right. I always did want it to say this or this, that. Okay, I'll do that in a next video. And it ends up paying off. Because to me, some of the best jokes that I write are the ones that make myself laugh. Not to sound conceited, but normally if I'm chuckling at something, I think people will enjoy it, and most of the time I'm right about that sort of thing. So it does feel pretty good that I'm laughing at something and people find it just as funny, if not more.
Yeah. And on that, when you go back, have there ever been times, like, I'm sure you've gone back to your very first video, which was a Kingdom Hearts rant. I know you reference that all the time nowadays because you're reviewing Kingdom Hearts at the time of this recording.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So have you ever gone back to, like, the really old videos? Because your channel wasn't always SomecallmeJohnny, as far as there was a Super Gaming Brothers review channel with you and your brother Elliot.
It was originally the Super Gaming Brothers on SomecallmeJohnny, and it was reviews, yeah, because before Let's Plays are even a thing. And as in terms of going back to the old stuff, no, I don't really go back to my really old stuff because I've learned so much since then. Back then, that was when I was struggling for an identity. I didn't know who I wanted to be. Do I want to be Angry Video Game Ripoff number 3? Or 4 at that point, I don't know. Do I want to be a nostalgia critic? It's kind of cringy in that way. You know, I was young. I didn't know what I wanted. So I look back, in perspective, I look back as to what not to do ever again on the channel in that way. That's why those videos stay up. They stay there as a reminder.
I feel like every creator has that sort of time where they go back and they realize, oh, Lord, what have I done? So when you go back, if you go back, I should say, and you think about yourself back then, minus the part about finding the identity that you have found since, what little pieces of advice would you have given yourself if you could time travel?
The best piece of advice I can give to myself back then would be to calm down. Calm down. Don't be so erratic. It's going to pay off. It takes time, as it always does. It's the one thing I tell everybody, because I get the question countless times in conventions. It's like, I want to start a YouTube channel. What advice can you give me? It's like, don't rush into things. Don't expect like 1,000 views, 2,000 views in a single day. I got lucky, honestly, with my rant video, my Kingdom Hearts rant video, because that got like 4,000 or 5,000 views in a day, and that was unheard of for a channel of my stature at that point, because I only had 2 subscribers, and I'm pretty sure one of those was an alternate account. And I guess it acted as, again, it was also a rant video, 2008, 2009. I guess you can say my finger was on the pulse at the moment. So it acted as a vehicle to get some sort of attention from my channel. But, you know, videos after that didn't have nearly as much pull, nearly as much views. And that opened my eyes, realized that, okay, not everybody wants to hear everything you want to say about certain subjects. So, but that comes to the territory. Sometimes you're going to get your hits, you're going to get your misses. And in the beginning, there's going to be a lot of misses because you are either A, still trying to find your niche, or B, people were just not very interested in the subject matter at hand for that particular video. It takes time. And once you find that pattern, whether you're being analytical about it, you study your pages and all that sort of thing, everything takes time. In my case, it took 6-7 years for it to finally kick off. I know that sounds like a lot of time, but you're young. you know, you got plenty of time in the world. I got plenty of time in the world, and I'm still growing, even to this day.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And actually, on that note, just for perspective for our viewers right now, your main channel is nearing 300,000 subscribers. your Super Gaming Brothers just crossed 100,000 subscribers, and I believe Brain Scratch is at 70,000 subscribers.
Yes.
So it's very much been a slow burn. I remember, personal anecdote, I remember finding you, had to be 2011, 2012, and I think you were just breaking 100,000 or 50,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see where you've come now since then as far as growth goes.
It is. It's very. Sometimes it could be a little too haphazard for your liking, but at the same time, that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to this sort of this sort of thing. Because when I broke 100,000 subs, like I was so happy when it happened. Like I was like, I never thought in my life to do that. And in about a year's time, about a year and a half, I doubled that. It took me like. It was scary, actually, to be honest, how fast it went from 100,000 to 200,000. But then, at that time, it also slowed down, which I'm very grateful for. Because if I went from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16, I probably wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, I can't imagine the comments.
Yeah, and
yeah.
the climb from 200,000 to 300,000 was definitely slower. But at the same time, that's more time that I've had to establish more of myself and what I can learn to do, what not to do, and again, it always warms my heart that whenever I'm making a video, and there's that singe of doubt in my mind, thinking that this video is going to be a piece of crap, or it's not going to be one of my better videos, but then I upload the video anyway, and people got their honest opinions about this critiques, but a lot of it is just praise, and I was like, oh. It's like, thank you, because it's super stressful at times. It really is. This job is not physically laborious at all. The only thing you're really lifting, I guess, is a mic, or climbing up the stairs to go to your office and go back down to the living room. But the mental strain it puts on you, especially as you get bigger, doesn't compare to any sort of physical job you can ever have. And I've worked 7 to 8 years in retail, 2 of those in a volunteer basis. It can be hard. It'll be stressful, but the payoff, in my opinion, is totally worth it, and that's why I still do it.
Yeah. So as far as your general channel schedule is, what's your daily schedule with YouTube?
In terms of all 3 channels?
You can limit it to just one. You can do all 3. I mean, I know your schedule's very packed, so.
All right. Well, for the main channel specifically, basically what it is that I like to set aside, especially if I know if the next game in the schedule is longer than usual, I like to set at least 2-3 days, maybe 8 to 10 hour recording sessions. I got my notepad out. I just sit down, I record. I only get up to eat, go to the bathroom, and then go to sleep finally for the day remains. And I try to get as much done as I possibly can while being methodical as I can, while also meticulously taking a lot of notes. That's just for the main channel. For SGB, if I'm in charge of a game, say if I'm in charge of playing a game, I try to get some practice in. I do some research on the game to maybe get some fun little trivia here and there. Or if I'm not good playing the game, if I'm not going to be co-commenting for this, then again, I do more research. Maybe I can find a decent tidbit here, maybe a fun little secret that I can tell the guys about, because I really don't like dead air in video playthroughs, because it's just nobody's winning in that one. And the same thing pretty much goes for the commentary channel. I mean, on any day that I'm not working on SGB or SomecallmeJohnny, I am preparing for a brain scratch commentary, either by talking with the guys and what are we going to do for the week, or what are we going to record this day? Are we doing anything this day at all? If not, then I will go back to the main channel.
Okay. Another question. How much of that time do you spend on the business side of YouTube? So, say, checking your analytics, getting an idea of plotting out what you want to do as far as, say, growth goes? I don't know if you do much of that.
Every day.
Every day. Okay.
You have to, especially at this point in time, where more so on the Let's Play channel, I would say, because of the way my reviews are edited, where there's a different 10-second clip going on every 10 seconds or something like that. you don't have to worry about like copyright strikes or content ID unless I'm blatantly uploading like Aerosmith's track record on YouTube. Then I'm usually fine on the legal side of things. But on a Let's Play channel, though, especially nowadays with like these limited ads, like something is considered not advertiser friendly. Oh my God, that is, ugh. You now have to check every single day on your video manager for at least the last few videos that you upload within like maybe the last 2-3 weeks, because if anything gets hit, that's money you're not making, and that's less pay for the month, and your bills and debt collectors don't care about that. They just want to see that money at the end of the month, and that way it's important to keep checking every single day. But luckily for SGB and for Brain Scratch, I'm not the only one that does that. I got my brother Elliot who does that on the side when I'm not doing it, and the other guys at Brain Scratch check that every day. But it is essentially an everyday thing. You have to.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of our NewTubers do that anyway, not necessarily for the monetary reasons, just because I know a lot of us have been or are impatient at times where it's like, are we getting views? Are we, And like you said, just slow down is the biggest piece of advice.
Yeah. But also slow down, but also learn from that analytical research. Like after you make a video, say after 1-2 days, study that growth. Did you notice a spike? Did you notice a decline? Maybe something's there. Maybe there's a bit of correlation in there. It's important to not just look at your analytics for monetary reasons, but to gauge your demographic and viewer retention. Most importantly, see what you can improve based on how you construct your videos. That way you can improve yourself, and hopefully down the line you get more and more subs as you keep going along, and everything just works out from there.
Yeah. And as far as, let's call it advertising. It's not really advertising. When you first started your channel or throughout the years, did you ever use any specific mediums to say, like, plug your channel, give a little shout out to yourself within like select communities or websites? Did you find anything that would pay off, better or worse for you?
The most obvious one, I think, is just social media in general. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Is LiveJournal still a thing?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay, no, it's probably I don't even think it existed. No, but social media out of everything is the most important way to plug your stuff. There was a time where I tried the whole business card sort of thing, have everything on that part and just hand it out in conventions. I found that didn't really work because people nowadays just absorb all of their information digitally. They would rather not have a physical piece of media that they'll just probably toss away as soon as they get back home. I mean, how many times have you gone downtown or like Center City and you got Greenpeace handing you a flyer that you probably immediately threw into the trash as soon as you got to the nearest trash can? To me, business cards, pamphlets, brochures, those, in my opinion, don't work anymore. Everything needs to be digitally absorbed, and to me, social media is the best way to do that. So that's why I plug that stuff on my descriptions for all 3 channels. Because there are people that you can reach via that way that are maybe looking for something new on YouTube, part of their video diet of the week or daily video diet, but they just don't know where to look, and sometimes social media helps guide them to what you want to make.
Yeah. And speaking of the social media, then let's talk about that for a second. What are the ways that you've really noticed has helped you grow your social media? Because for our NewTubers users, one of the biggest questions, we had a whole week on this back in July, was how do we push, not only social media, but social networking? How do we make these connections via Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even, like you said?
Well, for Twitter specifically, because I'll be the first to like that. I used to have Facebook. I don't have Facebook anymore. It just wasn't my thing after a while. I like Twitter the most because it's smaller. It's easier to absorb because, like it or not, the 140 character limit. So you have to carefully process your thought into a single tweet to get your point across, and I think that's easier to absorb. But for interactivity or just getting involved. One thing I like to do for a couple of things is like introduce a hashtag or do this and that. That way you get a subset of the community that cares about that sort of thing, and then you respond to that sort of thing. When people draw me like maybe a fan or maybe a joke about something I said on a video, I give them attention for that, and people see that, and it's like, oh look, like he really likes it when you do this, or he likes it when you do that. And not only that, like he retweets and favorites that stuff, so he's also giving you some attention, some exposure, you could even say. And they look at that, they enjoy that, and they tell people about that, and it's like, this guy does this guy does that, he's really cool, he does this and does that, and that's how it spreads. And honestly, after a while, your attention makes attention, and it just grows at that point. It's also really good to just like respond to stuff every once. I know it, as you grow in the numbers, it's harder to do. You can't respond to every tweet. You can't respond to every Facebook message. You can't respond. It's just not possible. But that's also important why you make those update tweets and all like this, to give people an idea of what's going on, what's coming up, if you're working on something, so that people are not in the dark with what's going on in the channel, because especially for the younger audience, they got short attention spans.
Especially with YouTube, now they have that new post feature, but before you had to post an update video, so you really did lose some of your audience when you wouldn't upload for a month because, say, you were reviewing an RPG or what have you.
Yeah, especially in today's market where you essentially have to upload a video each and every single day to be relevant in YouTube or Google search engines.
Yeah.
And that in itself is an entirely different beast that I'm still not sure how to tackle just yet, unless you're a Let's Play channel. But it is important. Social media, I believe, is also just as important to keep audiences in the know of what's going on with your channel.
Absolutely. And as far as social media goes, this kind of ties into another thing I want to touch on briefly, which is channel branding. If you look back at your channel throughout the years, very early on, you didn't have necessarily a channel identity, like you said. And then really once you changed it into the Johnny versus style of review versus the Super Gaming Brothers style, almost immediately you see these stylized thumbnails that really pop and give you an idea of this is what you're going to watch. You know what you're seeing. How did you come about the that type of branding, and how did you mold it to, say, Super Gaming Bros? Because I know you guys have a set thumbnail style or a template for your thumbnails, actually, which I recommend to a lot of Let's Players. I tell them to look at that because it's very clean, concise, and it gives an idea of what you're playing.
Yeah. Shout outs to Brandon, Switchback Designs. He's a wonderful guy. He's an upcoming graphic designer, and he's the one that made the template, and he's a really nice dude to work out, and I'd gladly recommend his work. Look him up, Switchback Designs. Hi, Brandon. You're probably not listening, but whatever. For the thumbnails, the branding in the main channel, honestly, because I first did that branding, I think around 2011, because that's when I first did the Johnny versus stuff. I think it was Mario that I started with, and around that time I was introduced to Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And originally, that was the name of the channel. It was like Johnny versus the World because, yeah, I'm an unoriginal sap.
I never made that connection. Oh my god.
Yeah, but I just like also around that time I was having a bit of a renaissance with fighting games because I was playing Street Fighter 4, Marvel vs. Capcom, Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, all that stuff, and I always liked the visual aesthetic of a versus screen in a fighting game. Because it was stylized, it was in your face. It also it was to the point. You got this guy on the left versus whoever is on the right. And to me, I think as far as a thumbnail goes for telling people what to expect, you can't really get any simpler than the personality and the subject matter at hand. Granted, when it comes to attracting new subscribers, you have to rely on them just being utterly curious, because I don't rely on quote unquote clickbait titles. I don't say the title is not Johnny versus Super Mario Brothers. 3 minutes in will shock you, because I hate that mentality. I don't judge you if you do, but I personally am not a fan of it.
Actually, that brings me to an interesting thing. I don't remember if you guys do it much anymore, but on Super Gaming Bros, you always had your episode titles in the description. I think specifically, I'm assuming to avoid that.
Right. Well, no, that was because personally, for a while, I hated the idea of having an overly long video title. Because you got SGB played, the game title, the part number, and the name of the part. And personally, that was just a lot of clutter. Unfortunately, we live in a world today where if the video title or thumbnail doesn't capture the audience, they will most likely not bother. And it's really weird because I know I just went into saying like I don't like the clickbait, but I do like having something a little more visually interesting, like a joke or a goofy title. It's
Even your thumbnails a lot of the time lately have gotten I don't want to say memey, but sometimes like your Super Gaming Bros thumbnails will have I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Like a lot of your Crash Let's Play, I've noticed a lot of really just out there thumbnails, just for the sake of referencing a joke in the video, and that's really.
But the one thing I try to keep consistent with those kind of thumbnails is that everything that you see in the thumbnail is from the game itself. It's not like I put the face of Tawna on like a real photorealistic chick with big boobs, because to me that's misleading. And that is quite clearly clickbait. I like to keep everything within the game itself. And if I can find an interesting freeze frame, like an in-between frame that looks really stupid, I love using it as thumbnail because people laugh at that. They look at that, they giggle, and they want to click on the video because of that. So in a way, like hook, line, and sinker, baby. Like I got you. Thank you for watching the video.
And going back to the title side of it, the reason I bring that up, and I'm going to transition with this too, is that the Completionist, someone who you've collaborated with, he's shifted his style significantly in the past few years, especially in the past few months, where it used to be the Completionist episode, whatever, that one video gamer review or whatever it would be. And even on his main channel and his other channels, you'll see those specific hook phrases to get people in to just watch, because he runs a full business based on his channels. And the reason I bring that up is to transition into collaborations. So how has collaborating with other users, both, say, larger or smaller, around the same size, how has that helped you as far as perspective, audience, growth, anything like that?
As far as perspective goes, it really opens my eyes to the different writing styles that I've never considered, or maybe just different writing visual styles that quite clearly tell me like, oh, maybe for this video or maybe for that video I can try like a different way. Obviously I don't want to alienate audiences by suddenly transforming into something that I'm not, but maybe there's a way I can take this or that and put my own spin on it while still remaining the personality that people enjoy me for. And when it came to like the Completionist video, or even more recently, Cat Icarus, Jim, it didn't really change my perspective on how to make a video, but it did give me a renewed sense of energy and purpose. Because a couple of years ago, you'd never convince me that I'd be collaborating with Gerard the Completionist or Cat Icarus. And the fact that I did at some point in my life that just says like, you know what? I've made the right choice in my life. And I'm going to keep going with this, because maybe if it's Cat Icarus today, maybe tomorrow it's Tom Hanks. That's my dream goal right there. Just do a random collaboration with Tom Hanks as we talk about Bubsy.
Not even a fitting game.
Not even fitting game. So you think it's Toy Story? No, Bubsy or Road to Hell, Retribution. But it may or may not affect my writing style, or at least give me an idea of how to approach a writing style, or maybe a different sense of energy. But it does renew that sense of energy that I have, because sometimes after a while you get a little burnt out, which is why I stress in vacations, or just maybe take a day or two for yourself, take a step back, breathe, and you'll be fine. But collaborating with someone to get an idea of how this or that works really does wonders, because that it's like you're still, again, I'm still learning. And when I collaborate with these channels that are much more successful than I am, I get an idea of how they manage to achieve that success. Although I'm still wondering how they do it, because, oh my God, Gerard, I love you, man, but you scare me with how much you output. And Caddy is the same way. I don't know how they do it. I honestly, I don't know how they do it. It just
They're superhuman.
they really are superhuman. You know, Caddy's also British. Maybe they have some sort of secret scientific super serum.
Secret tea.
Yeah, secret tea. There we go. I like that.
Now, before we jump into the last arm of that question, you mentioned writer's block, or creator's block, I should say, for every creator. I'm sure we've all had that at some point. What did you do to get out of that? Was there any catalyst that pulled you out of it? Like, say, you mentioned collaborations really pull you back into livelihood. Was there any tricks you would recommend that really help decompress you and get you ready for more?
If I get a case of writer's block for a review, I mean, it sucks when it happens, but it is inevitable. Just a fact of life. I like to see, this is the benefit of having different channels, because if I feel stuck in one particular channel, then I'll just shift my attention on another channel for the time being. And most of the time, after I finish that little stint, then that block is gone. Because sometimes, again, this just goes back into taking some time for yourself. You got to get away. The last thing you need is getting writer's block and then feverishly stressing about how I'm going to get out of this writer's block, which just makes the problem worse. So the way I deal with it is that I just step away.
Okay.
It delays the video a bit, but that's better than not having a video at all.
Yeah, and it helps since, like we said earlier, you have those other revenue streams from the other channels that really, you don't have to be forced to do that.
No.
Which is absolutely helpful. Now, popping back to collaborations for a second, as far as the collaborations themselves, have you noticed any renewed growth, jumps in growth from those videos on another channel bringing viewers into yours, or do you see that the retention normally just stays on their channel, or that you guys have mutual audiences more or less?
No, I definitely seen growth. Depends on the subject matter, honestly. People like the bad stuff. They when it comes to video game reviews specifically, people like it when you look at bad crap, because they like seeing you get stressed out about that sort of thing. And I notice those tend to get the most views when it comes to other content creators plugging my channel. But in terms of just a broad appeal, then yeah, I definitely see, when I did the collaboration with Caddy, my Crash Bandicoot video shot up, because he talked about those videos specifically. When I did the collaboration with Gerard, my Sonic videos, my old Sonic videos, thank you, Gerard, shot up in viewership. A couple, I think about a year or two ago, one Foot of a Ferret, one of the game theorists on MatPat's channel, plugged my Bubsy video, and that shot right up. So yeah, there is definitely, collabs do pay off in that regard. And for a while, I was hovering around, I want to say 275,000, 280,000 subs, and now I'm close to 292 since the collabs, and those push you right back up. But advertising is just one thing. Capitalizing on that growth is another thing, which is why if I know I'm collaborating with someone, if I got enough of a heads up, I try to have another video good to go right after they plug my stuff. It may not be the day of, but the day after or 2 days after, I'll have a new video ready to go so that I can show those newcomers what I'm about. Because they may or may not always go to my old stuff. They'll check the channel out, maybe not see what they like on the front page, and it's maybe later. So to have a new video out at that time to grab their attention, I think, is paramount to capitalizing on that growth from a collaboration.
Yeah, and plus, with new viewers coming in, they may not be as interested in the old stuff purely because it's older and say
Yeah.
your camera might not have been as good back then, for
Absolutely.
example.
Yeah.
So that always helps to have a new thing ready and cross, I don't want to say cross-contaminating, but crossing over.
Cross. I never did get that stain out, yeah.
But anyway, I think that's about all we really had to cover as far as the interview goes today. So is there anything else you'd really want to say to the NewTuber creators that are really getting up and starting?
Honestly, no more than I haven't already said, but I think it always bears repeating if you're just getting into this thing, whether you're a vlogger, a review channel, animation, just arts and crafts, all of that sort of stuff. If you're really thinking about pursuing this as a career or as a job, you gotta stick with it, and do not expect it. Get rid of that instant gratification mindset you have if you have it. You're gonna be in this for the long run. I mean, a very long run. But if you stick with it, you're gonna see those results. I guarantee you will. But you gotta have the passion, you gotta have the drive for it, and you gotta have the patience for it. It will pay off.
That seems like a good place to stop because that's just about all the time we have. I want to thank Johnny once again for taking the time to join me for this interview. If you want to check up with him, his YouTube and Twitter links are in the description below or in the show notes if you're listening on podcast, along with any other relevant links we've discussed throughout this interview. As always, let us know if you have any other figures in YouTube or anywhere else in content creation that you'd like to see us interview. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys and gals on NewTubers.
Thanks for listening to the NewTubers podcast. Come back every 2 weeks for more tips, tricks, and advice on starting, building, and sustaining your YouTube career. Visit us on reddit.com/r/NewTubers or on YouTube. See you next time!